All right, so, everyone hates mosquitoes,
Right.
but what if we could actually, outsmart them?
That's a great question, and it's what makes this BioBelt system so intriguing.
You sent us a ton of info on this, research, marketing stuff, even company reports.
Yeah, quite a mixed bag.
It is. So let's dive in. BioBelt, they're calling themselves this invisible protective barrier against mosquitoes. What's the deal with that?
It's really about, as you said, outsmarting mosquitoes, using their own biology against them, this whole idea of targeted pest control BioBelts kind of on the leading edge of that.
Okay, so for those of us who, aren't spending our days dissecting mosquito brains,
Hmm.
why is this such a big deal? Yeah, mosquitoes are annoying, but it's not like they're ending the world, right?
Well, they are a much bigger threat than a lot of people realize, honestly. Over 1 million deaths a year.
Whoa, seriously.
Mosquito-borne diseases, yeah. And it's not just like far-off places. Dengue fever, Zika, West Nile. These are all spread by mosquitoes. And with, climate change and all that, the areas where these mosquitoes can thrive, they're only getting bigger.
Okay, now you're just trying to scare me.
A little. But seriously, it's a real concern. And finding ways to control mosquitoes that are actually effective but also safe for everything else, that's the challenge.
And that's where BioBelt comes in with this whole different approach. So they're not trying to wipe out every mosquito in existence,
It's
right?
much more focused. They're going after a very specific target, those adult female mosquitoes that are on the hunt for a blood meal.
The ones that are after us.
Exactly.
Sneaky little. So how do they actually do it?
Yeah.
I read about these modules in a control unit, but honestly, it sounded kind of like,
A little complicating. It's
yeah.
actually pretty clever when you break it down. So imagine these modules, right? They're placed all around your property, but they're designed to blend in. You're not going to have these big, ugly things sticking out all over the place. Now, these modules, they're connected to a control unit.
Okay.
And this control unit, this is the interesting part. It releases controlled doses of carbon dioxide, the stuff we breathe out.
Yeah, so they're luring them in.
Exactly. They're using what attracts mosquitoes to us in the first place. And it's not just carbon dioxide. They also have this special lure that mimics the stuff our skin gives off.
Wait, so they're creating a fake human scent?
Pretty much. It's irresistible to those hungry mosquitoes.
That is both brilliant and slightly terrifying, but mostly brilliant.
Okay.
Okay, so they're luring these mosquitoes in. Then what?
Huh.
What happens?
Each module is basically like a high-tech trap. The mosquito, thinking it's found a delicious meal, it gets caught inside the module. And that's it. Game over for the mosquito. No more buzzing, no more bites.
Okay, that's actually really clever. But, I got to ask, what about the environmental impact of all this? Pumping out CO2, that doesn't sound so great for the planet, right?
That's a good point. CO2, not exactly, good for the environment. Did they address that at all?
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting, actually. They made a point of saying they're using recycled CO2 as much as possible.
Right.
And it's not just like they're, blasting it out into the world. They have this whole system, this precise diffusion thing to make sure they're using the minimum amount. Okay, so less CO2 waste. But how much are we even talking about here? Is there a number?
There is. Get this. The CO2 from a typical BioBelt system, like one protecting a decent-sized property, it's about the same as what one person breathes out in a year.
Really? So not as bad as it sounds, maybe. But, okay, all this is great, but does it even work? Can it actually stand up to a whole swarm of, bloodthirsty mosquitoes?
Right. That's the big question. And the good news is they didn't just throw some mosquitoes in a room and call it a day. They actually had this whole study done, a real rigorous one, by the University Hospital of Nice and some other researchers too.
Okay, so real scientists.
Yeah.
Not just, marketing people and lab coats.
Exactly. Real scientists, real world conditions. They wanted to see how well this thing worked out in the wild, not just in a lab somewhere.
I'm guessing they didn't just sit outside and wait to get bitten.
No, they used this method, human landing catches, they call it. Basically, people volunteer to be mosquito bait.
Wait, seriously? They just let mosquitoes land on them?
Pretty much. All in the name of science, I guess.
Wow. Dedicated volunteers, that's all I can say.
Hmm.
So, what happened? Did it work?
It did. After 6 weeks, the mosquito bites in the BioBelt protected homes, it dropped to basically zero. Statistically zero, they said.
Get out. So you're telling me I could finally, have a barbecue in my backyard without turning into a mosquito buffet?
That's the idea.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
But this was just in homes, right? What about bigger areas? Could you use this in, I don't know, a hotel or even like a whole park.
That's where the whole modular design comes in. They can scale it up or down depending on the space. They talked about this one property in Corsica, 13 villas,
Whoa.
spread out over 8 hectares, all protected by one system.
8 hectares. That's huge. Okay, this is blowing my mind a little. Like, if they can do that, what else could this technology be used for? It's not like mosquitoes are the only problem we've got, right?
That is a really interesting question. And, while most of what we got focused on mosquitoes, there were some hints about other possibilities.
Okay, now you have to tell me more.
So they mentioned this lab, Diptera Lab. It's their in-house lab. They've got a whole team of entomologists there. And they're not just like testing out the BioBelt. They're doing all this research on mosquito behavior, mosquito control. And they even hinted at this future development, a device that could actually capture carbon dioxide from the air.
Whoa. Now that is next level. So not only would it protect you from mosquitoes, it would actually like help the environment.
Exactly. Pretty amazing stuff. But I do want to go back to the BioBelt for a second. We talked about the modules, the control unit, all that. But like, how does it actually all work together? Is it really as simple as like plugging it in and forgetting about it?
I mean, it can't be that easy, can it? Just plug and play, mosquito-free living.
And not quite, although that would be pretty sweet.
Right.
It's actually really important how they place those modules. It's all strategic. Like they're creating these lines of defense, right? So the mosquitoes get lured in by that scent and bam, they run right into the modules.
Smart. But it's still the control unit that's like the mastermind behind all of this.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. It's the control unit that's doing all the heavy lifting, really. So it's constantly monitoring everything. It looks at how big the area is, how bad the mosquitoes are, even the weather. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
And it adjusts the system so it's always running, at peak performance.
Okay, that's some seriously next level stuff, like personalized mosquito defense. It's really amazing when you think about it.
Yeah.
We've gone from just trying to like blast mosquitoes with chemicals to actually like outsmarting them.
So it's a totally different way of thinking, right?
Totally. And what I find really cool is that BioBelt, they're not like content to just stop there.
Right. Remember that lab, Diptera Lab?
Oh yeah, with the entomologist.
They're not just sitting around. They're doing all this research, trying to understand mosquitoes even better. Always looking for ways to improve the system, make it even smarter.
I love that. Always pushing the boundaries. It really makes you wonder what else is possible.
Yeah.
What other problems could we solve if we just like thought about things a little differently?
It's exciting to think about. And what's really inspiring about this whole thing, at least to me, is that BioBelt shows that it's possible to create solutions that are both effective, good for the planet. We don't always have to choose, right?
Right. We can have both.
Yeah.
So BioBelt, definitely a fascinating deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground here, learned a ton.
Absolutely.
For everyone listening, we hope you enjoyed this little journey into the world of mosquito control. Who knew it could be so, interesting?
Right.
It really gets you thinking, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About, what other innovations are out there just waiting to be discovered.
And how we can use those innovations to create a better future for ourselves and for the planet.
Exactly. Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap things up. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time.